Everybody do this just like me. Everybody do this, do this.
Music is often taught in primary schools by class teachers who may not feel particularly confident about their own musical skills. With 10 years' experience teaching Key Stage 1, Louise Harvey-Wells still finds managing music in the classroom a challenge. In this programme, we follow Louise as she works with her new Year 1 class on 2 music lessons.
Music can be very daunting, especially if you're not a music specialist or have any musical interest whatsoever.
Good morning, Joseph.
But it's the fear of the unknown, and it's the worry that you don't know enough about it.
Good morning, Mrs. Harvey-Wells.
They've just come up from the foundation stage reception. So you can't expect to do a half-hour, 40-minute lesson. So what I generally tend to do is break it down into shorter sections. So quite often they don't even realise that we've entered into a music lesson. We're having a fun time using rhymes and rhythm, songs and actions.
There to support Louise in her planning is music advisory teacher for Kent, Helen McGregor. She's going to sit in on the lessons. Then both Helen and Louise will watch them back on video and reflect on how the lessons went.
She was concerned that she wasn't even started on the curriculum, so we talked about how she might get started on that. And she chose a particular unit which is exploring sounds. It's one of the QCA units of work.
I think it might be a good idea just to restrict it to hand sounds.
Right. It encourages the children to find sounds made with their hands, and she thought this was an interesting way in.
And to actually have lots of formal lessons is going to be hard for them to cope with and also to manage as well.
But she was nervous about presenting this as a lesson.
Smart superstars.
She decided to take the children into the music room where there was a space for them to sit in a circle, because then she had eye contact with everybody in the class and they had eye contact with her and with each other, so they could clearly see what individual children were contributing, which helped them to focus and listen.
That's it, we can get everybody in a circle. Lovely. Stop there, stop.
They were brilliant at making a circle because they just came in, they stayed in order, they made their circle, they made it look completely effortless.
And it helps when often you give them, when you come up in pairs and then they hold on to somebody's hand. They can't do it with, you let go of hands and they can't do it.
Okay, can we wiggle our fingers, make sure we're awake. Wiggle our fingers because we're going to need our fingers this morning. Can you wiggle them up high? When we do PE, we warm our bodies up, don't we? And we get ready. So we're going to warm up our voices. Everybody do this, do this, do this. Everybody do this just like me.
We started off with a song that I regularly use to focus them in and to get their attention. So they know that as a structure. After that, they're sitting ready, prepared for whatever comes next.
Do this just like me. Right, now, we're going to continue what we've been talking about before, about sounds and the different sounds that we can make using our bodies. We've been doing a bit on that before, haven't we?
And then I needed to remind them that we were doing the sounds and then start thinking about how we can diversify, not just using clapping, but how we can use other forms of hand sounds to make rhythm. They're always doing something with their fingers. So to actually legitimately playing with your fingers is obviously beneficial.
Can anybody remember some of the sounds we made with our fingers and our hands? Jake's sitting so beautifully. Well done, Jake. That's a good one. Well done. Now let's see if we can find another one. Molly.
Yeah, Molly remembered the scratching. She's remembering that it actually go downward movement strokes rather than the upward strokes. The upward strokes don't give the same sound.
Oh, that was your favourite one, wasn't it? Ready?
Easy.
That's a nice, easy.
Everybody was participating all the way through the lesson. There were lots of children totally absorbed in what they were doing. And it's a good way of developing fine motor skills as well, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Some of them were really exploring what individual fingers could do.
We're going to sing a song now. Now, this is the
We chose to use the song to give them the structure and also to give them the focus so they were all actually involved. Because otherwise, if you're just sitting there waiting for a child to choose a sound, it can get quite tedious for the other ones. And to harness their attention using the song.
So we're going to try and sing the song, and then one person will demonstrate, and I'm going to choose somebody very sensibly to show us either one of the ones we've just practiced or another one that maybe you could think of. Maybe that's given you some ideas and reminded you, but only remember, it sounds only to do with our hands today. 1, 2, 3. Hands can hold and hands can squeeze. Hands can...
Point here about starting songs off.
Hands
Hands can hold and hands can squeeze, hands can rest upon your knees. It's actually in a count of 4.
So it doesn't
So
fit.
to count in 3 gives them a sort of false sense of what's going to happen. You might want to just say, ready, and hands can hold, so that you've got their attention, they've got the start note, and you go straight into the song. And you can use that for any song.
Can your hands make treat? Have you got a sound for us that we could make? You want that one? All right, so we're going to sing the verse and then we'll add your sound on the end of it. Ready? Hands can...
It's got a very repetitive rhythm and melody, and also gives them a nice pause, so they're on within bated breath as to see who's going to be chosen.
It gives them a very secure structure, doesn't it?
They know what's coming next.
Can our hands make... Right, we're going to have one more go. Brandon, have you got a sound that we could do? Flick, flick. Ready? No, not flicking our head, Charlie. Because we're only using our hands. Wait, hold on. I'm waiting for people to be ready. 1, 2, 3. Hands can hold and hands can squeeze. Hands can rest upon your knees. Hands can clap and hands can shake. What kind of sound can your hands make? Let's make Brandon's sound. Ready? Well done. We're going to play memory game now. We're going to build up a pattern with our lovely sounds that we can make, all right? I'm going to choose Georgia first. Can you think of a sound that we can make? It doesn't matter if it's one we've already done. Click. So we're going to remember Georgia's one, and now we're going to see if we can add another one. Jack.
You never know how they're going to accept the whole sounds and the building and the memory and how much their attention is going to stay with the task. And they were there looking to see who was going to be the next person and see if we could remember it. And a couple of children, you can see, were actually trying to memorise who was next. And, no, that's the wrong order. And they were adamant that they knew who was coming next.
Jack was... Matthew was... Paul? Oh, Paul is being very clever. He's not just using the palms of his hands, he's using this bit here.
And one of the children came up with a totally different one using his wrist. So he's actually exploring the fact that, yes, he can use other parts of his hands. So he wasn't just sort of repeating or copying. So it was good that he'd actually taken that a bit further.
And now Thomas. Thomas is trying to use his fingers, aren't you?
I have something.
Right, let's go back to the pattern again. Ready? George's was 1, 2, 3. Jack's was flick, flick. And then Matthew was...
3.
And then Paul was... And Thomas was... How many children is that so far?
5.
Casper, have you got a sound for us? Well, why don't you have a quick look at this picture here? While everybody else is sitting on their bottoms.
And then I noticed that there was one little boy who was not very confident. He then used the chart and made it a secret.
And they were like, oh, what we're going to come out with.
Oh,
so
it's lovely.
it meant that the other children weren't excluded from it because they were then waiting for Casper. Sometimes his behaviour does mean that he can feel a bit alienated, and he was new. He only arrived at the beginning of this term. He wasn't with them in reception.
You didn't just accept the first one he pointed to. You made him go that little stage further to choose his own sound that hadn't been played before. And there he is. He's incredibly confidently.
He's loving it, isn't it? And it's wonderful to see his pleasure.
You can just about hear it. Okay, this is the last one.
It's lovely that you've taken an activity that's from a published scheme of work, but you've adapted it to suit your particular needs and your class's needs because of what you've discovered about them in the last 4 weeks. So that the lesson is very tailored to their particular needs rather than following the plan.
Georgia was...
There was a really nice structure to the lesson. So you started off with something that they were familiar with, that they'd done before, a little song that they all joined in with to get their attention at the beginning. And then you moved into follow on from the last lesson, which was exploring sounds, making sounds with the hands. What will be the next stage in the next lesson?
We'll probably follow the composition route. And then looking again at the chart and the sounds, the different body sounds. So it's the clap, the rub, the flick, the click, whatever the pictures are. And then what would be quite nice is if they can actually, within a group or a pair, create a sequence, annotate it, and then bring it back to the whole class in that situation. So then they're looking at it and reviewing their own work, and then perform their sequence, or see if the whole class can actually work out their sequence from the notation.
Right, so I'm going to make a pattern and let's see if you can read it for me. I'm going to choose 2 sounds. Which one is this? Flick. Which one is this? Pop. Here we go. Now we're just going to say it first. Ready? Flick, flick, pop, flick, flick. And what would come next? Pop. It's a sequence, so we know what comes next, don't we? Luke, who's your partner? Go.
In Year 1, children still need to be spending a lot of time exploring sounds, finding different sounds that they can make themselves. Louise actually took that a step further and decided that they were ready to start ordering those sounds and making sequences. She listed the sounds that they could choose from. That linked very well with her maths work because they were making repeating patterns of 2 or 3 different types of sound, and they were very focused on the number of times they were repeating the sounds.
Yes. Flick and scratch. So you can make it into a pattern now, don't you two? So which one's going to go first? You're going to have the scratch together, and then you're... All right, so if everybody put it together then. Right.
And keep looking at each other so you can keep together.
Okay, let's make a different
Are we ready?
Tap, tap. Clap. Oh, you definitely got it right.
They're building up the idea of being able to read a piece of music, notate a piece of music, and they're ready to do it in Year 1. They could be doing exactly the same sort of activity in Year 6 with much more complex sounds, with rhythms perhaps, with melodies. But there it is already in Year 1, established. So I think she was very brave to take it on that stage, and the outcome was absolutely fantastic. The children have now produced their own musical scores which they can play, they can share, and they can perform to each other.
Matthew and Charlie. Give them a clap. How brave are they? William and Abigail. Right, ready? 1, 2, go.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Well done.
Music has to be hands-on, especially for small children. So to let go is very scary for a teacher. You don't know what you're going to end up with. You can end up with a rat on your hands.
Which do you start off with, a pop or a clap?
Pop.
A pop. So you're going from this side. It's left-handed music here. Pop, pop, clap.
I think generally teachers are nervous about music because it makes a noise, and the noise level can be quite high sometimes, especially if you're using instruments. But if you just apply your normal classroom management strategies to a music lesson, it can work really well.
Which 2 sounds have you 2 chosen for your score?
Tap and clap.
Right, how many taps are there?
2.
And how many claps are there?
2.
So are you ready? Well, I'll count you in and then you start together. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Tap, tap, clap, clap, tap.
Can we join in? Can we get faster? Keep together.